Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Three Idiots opens with three former college students on the hunt for Rancho, a fellow student that had a huge impact on their lives in college, but up and disappeared right after graduation. The film then cuts to the Imperial College of Engineering 10 years earlier, and we meet our key characters properly. There's the suppressed artist Farhan, played by Madhavan, perpetual incense burner Raju, played by Sharman Joshi, and insecure social climber and general kiss-ass Chatur the Silencer Ramalingam, played by Vaidya. We also have Boman Irani's Dr. Veera Sahasrabuddhe, or Dr. Virus, pompous director of the school and satirical embodiment of the negative aspects of the Indian higher education system. Rote memorization, toxic competition, and individualist social striving. And let's not forget the love interest. Dr. Virus's accomplished and beautiful daughter, Pia, played by Kareena Kapoor, who is engaged to an asshole. Into this mix comes the brilliant and mischievous student Ranchadas Shamaldas Chanchad, or Rancho, played by Aamir Khan, who, like Paddington Bear, becomes the teacher to all those around him, even Dr. Virus. Three Idiots continues to cut between the present-day hunt for Rancho and the past at school, showing in both how Rancho changed everyone's respective lives. The film also answers that age-old question: how many engineers does it take to deliver a baby? Hint, it's a lot more than 3.
I can't hear you. I think there's some audio issues. Sorry. No, I just see your. Well, we could hear the synopsis, but not you talking. Nothing yet. Oops. Okay.
Figured it out.
Oh, good. Yay.
I figured it out.
Showbiz waits for no person.
You know what? And I really kind of choked because it was the best intro, the smoothest intro I've had the whole,
I know,
literally the whole time.
You look very,
it was just bang on.
You look very enthusiastic. I mean,
I was very enthusiastic. We're on time.
Yep.
All our like the other stuff went well, but well, folks, it won't be the first. Well, it certainly isn't the first time our my issues operating the gizmo
you gotta want to
screwed us up. But
you're the head air traffic controller too, so that's.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. Okay, you know what? Now that we're back online, I am going to. It's now time to welcome our special guest host, fellow YouTuber, fellow film lover, all the way from Chennai, India, Mr. Shashank Vchari. Hello, Shashank.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Hello.
We
yes.
can.
Yep.
Yeah. No, you're fine. My technical issues otherwise. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing fine.
Okay. All right. I can now take this caption. We're doing
good.
Well, I'm good.
It was a nice fall day here, but winter's coming on its way. Probably a little harsher than in India, but I think I looked at.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, I looked it up before we came on air, and it's 13,000 kilometers from Chennai to Winnipeg. So it's a bit of a bridge right now, but that's pretty cool.
And 10 and a half hours ahead of us.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Shashank, what is the, first of all, are you above the north of the equator or south? Like
south.
I looked you up on, you're south of the equator, so you're actually heading into, well, how far south?
I can't tell you geographically, but we're pretty south.
Yeah, but like, I mean, how far south of the equator? When's winter for you? Is there winter?
It generally comes around November.
Okay, so
October, November time.
Gotcha. So you're like in spring.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Okay, so you're like almost a hotter Australia, which is kind of hard to believe. Okay. All right. Well, listen, looks like we've got a few folks. We've got a few folks watching. Let me just check the chat here. Oh yeah, we got We got Jim. Yeah, many people saying they can't hear me. Okay, first of all, let's say hi to Richard. Hello, Richard. I'm assuming Katie is with you, and then also, Richard spots somebody's Easter egg. What do we got here, Jim? Why don't you point it out to us all?
Well, first of all, the hat that I'm wearing is not Indian, but it's Nepali. I bought it in Kathmandu about 90 years ago. Anyway, and it's not going to stay on long because I'm really hot. But I don't. It was in my sock drawer. I don't often get a chance to wear it, so I decided to put it on. So it's the neighbor to India. So, but I do. What hand am I using? Oh, I guessed right. Right over there.
Yeah.
Bingo.
That's nice.
And I have it the right side up too. I checked, so that's good. Orange on top. So,
and then it looks like Shashank, you have actually you got the poster up behind you. So,
oh, nice.
And then I, of course, am lazy and love to do the green screen. All right.
No.
Okay. Listen, before we get into deep into our chat, let's just make sure everyone knows you are in the spoiler zone. We're not going to let any detail, we're not going to hide any detail as we dive into this movie. Also, Shashank, you're a busy man. You give us kind of a heads up on, hey, we need to wrap up so that Jim and I and anyone else in the chat who has any specific questions for you, give us a couple of minutes. So because I know you do have to go to school. You got to go to class, and of course it's late on a Monday night for us, so we're fine. Okay, let's. You know what? Let's kick it off then. Shashank, why don't you tell us? Why don't you start us off and just let us know why this is one of the movies you recommended Jim and I to dive into?
So the first time I saw this movie was when it released. I think it was in 2009. Mm-hmm. And this film has had a huge impact on all the Indian students. And the reason is most of our education system is based on rote learning. So basically, you're given stuff you have to read. You have to basically mug it up and just, regurgitate it on the paper.
Yeah.
So, and also the options at that point in time, at the point in which the film released, are a lot less defined. So basically, you can become a doctor, you can become an engineer, and maybe something commerce related. So things are a lot less defined at that point in time. So, this was like a call to action for people to pursue their dreams and for people to really, follow their passion. And also it proved on to show that even if you get great marks, it's not necessarily that you're intelligent or smart. It's just that you've been able to mug up stuff better than the other guy. So because I've been part of the education system, it's a lot more relatable for me. And it's not only for me, but for people around the world, like in China and Philippines. So I thought, and it's one of the most popular Indian films. So yeah, that was the reason why I recommended it.
Yeah. What about, what were your, well, actually, let me follow up on that. What I read was, it was like the issue of high pressure, super like hyper competitive education was kind of taken up as an issue like across Asia, or let's say not. I mean, Asia is so big, but let's say what we would necessarily call Southeast Asia and China and India, agglomerating like several billion people into that. But
Japan too has a fairly regimented educational system too.
Well, it kind of reminded me of my mother, a British immigrant. What she was talking about before significant reforms happened, those very critical tests when she was like 11 that really did say, okay, you're going to be a tradesperson or some other kind of peasant. You will go to higher education, and just that kind of intense pressure. And some of this reminded me of that, how everything's riding on these things. What, Shashank, was there any other like when you look at this, when you go to school, like, I mean, do you see a lot of the movie in class, or has there been a lot of change since then? Like, this is over 10 years ago now.
No, there are definitely a lot of changes now, but I mean, the characters of Rancho, I mean, it's a caricature. I mean, you don't find super genius, mischievous kind of people like that in India. I mean, not as much.
He was Lord Krishna. I really did. I was like, he's a trickster character.
Yeah.
A chaotic good trickster character.
Yeah. I mean, it is a bit exaggerated. I wouldn't say that all the characters you would find in India are like that. I mean, there's a lot of diversity here. Yeah. But things are changing right now. So we have more of self-study mechanisms right now. And I think the access to the internet has opened up new opportunities for everybody. So, I mean, now people are exploring a lot more. This released around 11 years back. It released in 2009, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, things were much more closeted then. But things are definitely opening up now. Now there's a lot more awareness. Yeah.
What, Jim, what did you think of, what was your general take on the movie?
Zooby dooby.
all is well.
I'm just going to warn you, I may break into a very intricate dance moves and song combination later on. I didn't know what to expect. I sort of wanted something big and colorful and crazy, and
I believe it delivered.
You know, this thing had everything. I wrote down the types of movie it had in it. It had, aside from what Shashank is pointing out as being, important, like a criticism of the educational system, it was a buddy movie. It was a road trip. It was a missing friend mystery. It was a musical at times. There was the sort of the criticism part of it. There's a love story in it. There's a little bit of it had sort of a Dead Poet Society, Catcher in the Rye idealism kind of thing going on. Yeah. There was like a wedding. Kidnapping. There was a heist movie within this. There was a baby scene. I initially wrote it down. I said, this movie has everything. It's got rubber babies, space pens, drones, penile electrocution, and it just, it's sort of like, there's so much in this. And then it would take some sort of weird turn. And then there'd be a musical number, and you'd say to yourself, "Wow, I just I was just enjoying the ride." Basically, it was a lot of fun, and I was sort of laughing out loud towards the end. The big reveal at the end it was a good sort of a nice sort of punchline, I guess, when they pulled one over on the straight-laced student, but. Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty great. There's elements of it that were kind of corny and what have you, but it had a good. I think the movie's heart was in the right place, and I bought in immediately, and I was along for the ride, and I mean, sign me up for more of this kind of stuff. I would easily watch that, and for a 3-hour movie too. It moved pretty well, I thought. Sometimes a 3-hour movie, you think, oh my gosh, this is going to be something else. But I think by virtue of the fact that it had so much in it,
never a slow point.
Well, there's so many balls in the air, and playing with the chronology too. So you're in the past and in the present, and then in the past, and they pulled those off well too.
What point in the past?
Well, oh, sorry,
no, that's what I mean. Like it's. Not only is it playing with the past, it doesn't just jump. It's not like two very clear timelines. We'll go here, then we'll go there. There's jumping around within the past as well, which I thought was kind of neat.
So, it occurred to me afterwards that by the time they kidnapped Pia from the wedding up north, that they had already saved the dean's grandchild, and the interesting thing about his character is that once he shaved the mustache off, the mustache stayed off. He didn't grow it back, so that was kind of interesting. But it was a great ride. I was totally jazzed, and when it ended, I was like, man, I got to tell my wife about this one, and it was a lot of fun. I would watch it again in a second.
I feel the exact same way. I had a great time, and it didn't drag. Like, you got invested in these characters, and you wanted to see them succeed. I was like there's I was a little concerned. Like it's interesting. Richard chiming in on the chat, he's thinking, I think Shashank described Indian movies as either social message or Bollywood. He is right that it covered both. And covered both effectively. Like that's what I was really impressed with is it's like, okay, I feel like and you know what, I have so limited experience, but everything I kind of assume is in a Bollywood movie. I'm like, oh, there's dance numbers. There's singing.
Yeah.
This is what I expect. A lot of that pop and color, the visual pop.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, even when it's doing the social messaging, it's like, how do you handle that? And I was really impressed because, like, right at the beginning when Dr. Virus, computer virus, is talking about, my son, 3 years, fell in front of the train. Well, now he didn't. He killed himself.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody else who kills himself. And then and it's one of those things where it's like, that's such a heavy subject, especially when you're dealing with students.
Yeah.
And they're not children, but they're close enough that it's like, how do you mix that tone? And I was really kind of impressed by the end of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like, good. It's the and Shashank will refer to our conversation about Better Call Saul. I do. I love a movie that ends in a wedding. And although it didn't quite end in a wedding, there's a baby being birthed. They give me what I want at the end, which is a happy ending.
A happy ending.
Yeah.
I just want to cut in before I forget, and I don't want to ignore Shashank too long, but and maybe you can agree with me, Shashank. Tonally, that's a really tricky balance that they did,
yes.
and I'm trying to think what was it like, and it reminded me of the first when I was younger and up late watching the late movie. I was maybe 12 or 13, and you would watch these. Especially in the 70s, they had these what they called dramedies coming out, right? And so it would be this sort of really broad, lively thing, maybe about friends growing up or somebody doing the same job, and then they would kill off one of the characters right in the middle of it, in that sort of record scratch or brake squeal, and it just sort of changes everything. There was aspects of, maybe And Justice for All, if you've seen that lately. It was as a criticism of the law with, Al Pacino, and that came out right around 1980 or so. But also, there's a show here, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Shashank, Scrubs, it's called, and it was a sitcom about young doctors studying in a hospital, and it would be they had almost like this, like little musical numbers and dream sequences, and a lot of sort of naughty kind of double entendres and things like that, and then one of the patients that they were dealing with would die, and then they'd have to deal with that, and the tone would totally change, and they handled it like effortlessly. And I thought that this was similar to that. And
I wonder, sort of cut you off there for a second.
No.
Maybe Shashank, this would be a question for you. First of all, I think actually when you look at a lot of Canadian, North American television, I think in the stuff that's come out in the last 20 years is really, you can see that influence, that Bollywood influence, especially as, we're just exposed to it a lot more. But Shashank, my question for you on this one before we get to Richard's comment, is that something that's characteristic of either the cinema or maybe the television, that kind of willingness to manage tone, that willingness to kind of go from very dark to let's have a dance number. I mean, it wasn't quite that. The contrast wasn't that, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Indian films, the thing that you need to understand about Indian films is they cater to everybody. So they want to cater to the 9-year-old as well as the 90-year-old. And most of the commercial films, I mean, they just want everybody to have a good time. So they put in everything. They put in a dance number. Some films put in a fight number. So there's everything in it. It's like a cabaret. I mean, you have everything in it. And at the end of the day, they just want people to have a good time. So, I mean, but the thing about this film is it had a social message. So as I told in my intro, right? So there are the Bollywood musicals. I mean, just films that are meant for entertainment. And then there are films that are made on serious subjects. So this film managed to seamlessly connect both together. That's the speciality of the film. That's why it struck a chord with so many people.
It's a cabaret.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick question, Shashank? When you saw this, did you see it in the theater or did you see it on tape, VCR? I don't know, DVD at home, or how did you see it the first time?
I saw it in the theater when it first came out. I was 7 years old when I saw it. Yeah, I saw it in the theater.
What a great big movie to see on the big screen, right? Like so
absolutely.
much. And that's actually a perfect segue to Richard's comment here. It's stunning. I love the whole tour into northern India. But it's so, and how they took it full advantage of scope, like of scale. Well, at the same time, it's still only 5 or 6 people. That's all you, like, I think half the reason I got so into it is, we really get to know those 3, 4, 5 key characters really well in a 45-minute first act, that you're totally invested in them through all the way through.
Yep.
Now,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, here's a question. You know what? I don't know if you noticed this, Jim. Well, great time to ask. I noticed, especially there was kind of key points, and I'm curious about Shashank, your view on this. But in the subtitles, there was some significant changes. One, I noticed there was a gag at the end where I'm like, I'm Canadian, I get the centimeter. I want that joke, damn it. I feel like I got screwed out of the joke where it's like I was millimeter when I was a kid, and in the subtitles, I'm taller now. I'm like, oh, you totally sucked the gag. I got it. Millimeter, centimeter. Come on. But there was now, of course, Wikipedia, right? There's the big practical joke number on the silencer, and it's my understanding from Wikipedia is actually like the word in, I'm assuming it's Hindi, although it seems like they're mushing like 3 languages together on a regular basis, but I'm assuming in Hindi, because that was the whole gag. He's speaking in Hindi. They've changed the serving in the thing, it's screwing, but in Hindi they changed it to raping.
Oh my gosh!
Okay, so Shashank is confirming that. All right, Wikipedia is correct in this case.
Yeah,
that kind of lends itself to the question, like here in North America, and we could almost talk about this in a way in the whole movie, but here in North America, even 2009, that would not have been a joke. Unless it was done in like unless it was done in like a prison context, which is still kind of considered fair game. And this might also be the time to comment. This movie, for those of you by fair trade, this movie does not pass the Bechdel test, nor does it. It would not qualify for the reframe stamp of approval. I think it's very class conscious, but its class analysis is very, I would call it even North American, like some of its key messages. Going back to that, was that like does that even bat an eye in India, the rape joke, or is that something that's become more? Yeah, I'm curious. I just want to know. Speak
No.
for all of India, Shashank. Let's make sure we
No.
have the total focus on you.
No, to be honest, when that joke came out, I think people didn't take it as seriously. One, there was not as much awareness, but I think the main thing about that sequence was you shouldn't rote, right? You shouldn't cram and just memorize stuff without understanding it.
Yeah.
And basically, if you do that, if you follow that college system of just memorizing stuff, you're going to get screwed in real life after you pass out college. So I think that was the message. So because of the messaging of it, I don't think people assumed it would be people didn't take it to be inappropriate. So I don't think it caused any stir here in India. Absolutely not. In fact, that's considered to be one of the funniest scenes in Indian cinema, period. Like,
really?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't think anybody had any issues.
Yeah.
Nobody had any issues.
That's fascinating. I'm not sure. Like I got the joke, but I'm not sure. Like and I got the joke, the meaning of the joke. Let's say the intended meaning.
Yeah.
Before I even read about it, like screwing was fine with me. But I gotta admit, I don't think it would be my favorite scene in the whole movie. There is a lot of good stuff. Jim, if you're to pick a favorite scene, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good
You're
question.
forced. I mean, it's a tough call actually because it's
Yeah.
pretty solid.
Yeah, there was a couple times I wish I'd written it down when I laughed out loud. One is the reveal of what his real name was at the end, and that was like whoa, and I sort of wondered at the time. I thought that wouldn't be him, and I sort of just pushed it aside. But yeah, that's a good question. There was so much in the movie. It was a great shot and sort of a great, and I've even written this down. When they went to Shimla, I believe, and then they found the guy who had their buddy's name. Who was
the real
real Rancho. Yeah. And they had to threaten him with pouring the father's ashes down the toilet,
which was a pretty good bit, eh?
It was a great bit, and the best thing, and the shots were very set up so nicely and so comedically. So I think there was one thing, and they finally talked the guy down. And then there was a shot. The next shot was the two guys sort of sitting down, leaning against the wall. The Raju still had the urn by the toilet, but he wasn't threatening anymore. And Farhan had the guy's gun, and the guy was sitting. And so I thought, again, with the have I ever seen this in a movie before? A bathroom scene with an urn full of cremains, a guy with a gun, and they sort of just had a little peaceful talk there. And I thought that was really a very quietly comedic, a great shot. Number one, like visually, and just very quietly comedic. That was kind of a neat scene, I thought, and that was probably one of them anyway. In a movie filled with them. So
yeah, no. What about you, Shashank? Like any particular? Wow, I still, or actually, never mind. Like, I don't know. Did you watch first? I guess the first question is, did you watch it again just to remind yourself of the film?
Yeah. Okay. I just saw it yesterday, but I've seen this film around 40 times. So
oh my gosh.
Okay. All right. So it's your Star Wars, so to speak.
Yeah. So I've seen it numerous times. But I think my favorite scene would probably be the machine scene. So initially, when they go into the college and the professor is asking them what is a machine, and the guy says Rancho says it reduces human effort, and then he goes out and he comes back, and I think that would probably be my favorite scene. Yeah.
Yeah. That I think I even referenced it when I cut my synopsis. Thank you, Jim. What now that Shashank, as you get into as you're growing as a, let's say, a film analyst and a film critic, when you think about it, you saw it as a child. This is almost your maybe not quite a does it hold up? It does so far.
It does.
What do you draw from it now that before was just a great movie? Now is like when you look at it, what are you pulling from it? What do you draw from it from more of an analytical mindset?
I mean, to be honest, when you have grown up with the film so much, whenever you view it again, you view it with nostalgia. So you view it with the memories that you grew up with while watching the film initially. It's really hard to give, I mean, a critical assessment of a film that you've grown up with so long. But if there are things that I had to, draw from, I would say possibly the screenplay. I mean, the mixture of comedy and, drama. I think that's the thing that I pull from it, especially because a lot of Indian films, when they do this, I mean, a lot of Indian films do it, but they don't do it as seamlessly as this film does it. So, I mean, there is huge tonal shifts, right? So you have a scene where they're partying, right? The All Is Well song is going on, and then the guy has committed suicide, and then there's a comedy scene. So it's like comedy, sad. I mean, a lot of other Indian films have done it, but to be able to do it so seamlessly, I think it involves a lot of thought. And this film doesn't have a single deleted scene. So like everything was thought through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. Jim, what are you thinking?
Sorry, about,
I don't know, like when you look at this film, like on not a meta level, but you've got the film as a ride, let's say.
Yeah.
And it was a great ride.
Oh yeah.
But there's also the film as a craft. As you look at it and you kind of go, okay, what's going on here? What are the nuts and bolts, or even the politics of the film? Mm-hmm. What do you draw from it that beyond just, wow, what a great ride? Like it really was.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm trying to think of one of the things that I actually was, and we can save this for later. I was going to ask you and Shashank and the people watching that I wonder if I'll just openly wonder instead of turning into a question if this movie could be done in Hollywood. Like would Hollywood ever put something like this out? Like with the scope and the time and the musical numbers and all that kind of thing. But that we can talk about that later. For me, I mean, it was. I guess I'm still digesting it too. What I pulled from it, I sort of wonder how, I wondered about the need for this movie and like what people saw in it. I know it was based on a book, and I'm not familiar with the book. I didn't do any research on the book, but things must have been pretty bad in some ways. That they have three characters that either commit suicide or dabble in it, and it's front of mind.
I believe it's called attempt.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he did walk off a building.
Exactly.
A solid attempt. One cannot criticize the attempt.
What was interesting about that was the shot of the foot around the cord. And I thought, is he going to end up dangling down, or whatever. But anyway, so two characters commit suicide, both off screen.
And we know of a third.
And we know, and another one talks about it with his parents, like one of the three main characters. Yeah. And so this is pretty, like, that's a lot to have in a comedy. So I was sort of wondering, I was thinking, man, how bad is the pressure and I guess that's the whole point of it. I guess too. There's a very
you got a
much
question in there, or
well, no.
Sorry, Jim. I'm being a smartass.
No, and then I was wondering about. There's the whole idealism about it. Is that it was. Follow your dreams. I think the last lines have to do with follow your dreams.
Commit to excellence and success will follow.
Yeah,
which is Yeah, that'll get into the area where I will criticize this film. But
that's a little bit sort of positive thinking seminar kind of stuff. But I think it doesn't wreck the movie or anything like that.
No.
But in a way, I think that the idealism of it, especially in the character of Rancho, who is like a sort of a almost a magical creature. Like, he doesn't really have an origin. I mean, he does, but he doesn't have. They deal with the parents of the other two guys.
Well, that's
not
what
so
I
much
mean.
him.
He really is like a full incarnation of Vishnu. I did some research on that. He is too competent. And correct me if I'm wrong, Shashank. From what I understand of the Lord Krishna as an incarnation, he's very sweet and kind, mischievous. Like he's. Initially I was thinking like more of an African or Western trickster god, but they're very much like Loki. I don't care as long as there's trouble. Whereas this guy is very much even right at that point where he says to Dr. Virus, I don't give up on any of my students, even the weakest ones, where it's like, that's a god traveling amongst us mortals to make a point, Although he isn't, and I like it. So am I, that's a question, well, maybe we'll put a pin in it, Jim. We'll go back to you, Jim, but sure. I want to make sure if my reading on that is, at least kind of in the ballpark. I don't want to, I want to know if I really effed it up or, so Shashank, again, now speak for all, Hindu tradition. So we'll put a pin in that.
No pressure.
Yeah. Back to you, Jim. What before we get back?
Yeah, no, I just in terms of what.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The other things going on in the movie is just the things that sort of struck me was the suicide aspect, and also just that idealism. It was almost like a call to arms for idealists. That you had all these sort of ridiculous characters that were very much concerned with the material things. And and in that way, it sort of reminded me a little bit of, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but Dead Poets Society, which is a big Robin Williams movie, of course. There's even the on a lesser extent, in a lesser way, sort of Catcher in the Rye kind of stuff. But not in the same way.
I'm thinking almost also maybe, Jim, the remake of Life and Times of Walter Mitty or The Adventures of Walter Mitty.
Yeah.
There's got a bit of that. I've been following the rules all my life. I need to break out. I don't know, Shashank. What about that idea of suicide? Like for myself, kind of jumping on what Jim was said, what surprised me, or what I wanted to ask you about, is it does seem to be, and you sort of alluded to it earlier, that these or the Indian market is, we want the whole family in there. And they seem to be kind of, Grandma will be there. Grandma can explain death to, the little bugger. Like you saw it when you're 7 years old. North America, it would have been, that's not a children's movie. You couldn't let kids, Jim, would you, given some of the themes and the visuals, it'd be PG whatever. Yeah. You'd wait until, you wouldn't be bringing your 7-year-old to it. Whereas here it seems to be, a lot more, there'll be stuff for the kid to be happy with. What do you think of that, Shashank?
I mean, there are a lot of serious subjects the film tackles, but, if a film ends with a happy ending, if it's happily ever after, I think that people would still buy into the concept of watching the film. And once again, right, so you have a sad moment, you have a really serious moment, but then you have a comic moment, right? Yeah. So it's not that audience mindset while watching the film for the first time. It's not that, oh my God, this is happening. It's like, okay, what can happen next? So, as long as the film ends with a happily ever after, I think people would still buy into the fact that, this is a film that we can take our kids to and watch. I
think, though, like Jim, see if you agree with me with this. I I think I agree with you, Shashank. Like, I was upbeat at the end. I'm more thinking that the North American market would not allow it to be made. It would not get into the theater at the right level. Like, I think it's more of a cultural thing at the production end, not at the would people get it. I think we've got, I was being a smart aleck with a buddy of mine. Every community has a Helen Lovejoy who just loves to mind everyone else's business, clutch pearls and go, well, someone think of the children. But in North America, North American filmmaking is constrained in a certain way. We like our boxes. Okay, that's a children's movie that can have some adult humor, some adult themes, but it's got to be very, like even now, the way people refer to Toy Story, and it's like, can you believe they almost died? And now I'm never going to hear that without going, watch a Bollywood movie. They just do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you, Jim?
Yeah. No, it's funny. Sort of along those lines, my kids are more of Shawshank's age now. But when they were younger, we used to go see a lot more animated movies in the theater, and to the point where we would try to hit all the movies that were nominated for Best Animated Feature in a year. And I remember one year we ran out to go see Triplets of Belleville because the Oscars were on that night, and that was the last one that we had to see. It's a French animated movie, and it's animated, and there's some slight nudity in it. There's a Josephine Baker character who performs in the nude. And so the ushers for the movie theater sort of gave me a look. They said, there's some nudity. I said, is it what's the context? They said, it's just very brief at the start. So, but yeah, there's a lot of that kind of. Just when Rob was saying that, I was wondering, and I'll ask you later, Shashank, but. I think a lot of people would think this is a mature subject, and the kids wouldn't get it, and there's be large passages that they wouldn't sort of pick up on, or maybe it would be inappropriate or something to that effect. So I'm wondering, so you're 7 years old, and you probably go to a big crazy movie theater, a big packed movie house on the weekend or something. Did your parents take you, or did you go with friends or an older sibling or something, or?
No, I went with my family. I went with my parents and my sister.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I can't. Shashank, that comforts me. And I cannot wait. To when I hear somebody go, won't someone think of the children? I'm like, here, let's slap Three Idiots on. Let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me show you how full emotionally and thematically full a movie can be. What again, and this is a tough one again for you, Shashank. Like for Jim and I, we always try and except for our once a month, hey, does it hold up? We're seeing this movie for the first time. That said, I did read some criticisms of it, Asian criticisms, not North American, but Asian criticisms of it is, it's the novel it's based on, well, it's Bollywood on paper, it's just another Bollywood film. But what does that mean in an Indian critical sense? I've seen, and I like it's either social or what did they have? Oh, it was funny. In the movie, they even had that whole, it's visiting that house was like Raju's, is it Raju or Raju?
Yeah. Raju.
Visiting Raju. So I was like visiting a movie in the 1950s and everything's black and white. And it's like, I'm thinking of also like early Akira Kurosawa or something. It's like, we visited the 50s in Japan, post-war, misery.
And suffering and
I don't know, where is there a big divide in India in analyzing Indian cinema? or is it one of those things where you got extremists on both sides and they're just yeah?
No, I don't think so. This film has been viewed well, right? And I think one of the criticisms that people would find, I assume first-time watchers or film critics would find while watching the movie, is that you go into expecting a film that has a 100% IMDb rating and an 8.4 IMDb rating, right? To be a little bit more serious than it is. And Bollywood films are generally, they have everything, right? They've got all the elements in. And generally, if you want to make a film,
I'm not laughing at you. I'm not laughing at the film either. I just love the let's put it all there. Okay, go on. Sorry.
So to appeal to a large enough audience, you need to have those elements in. Otherwise, it's not going to reach big enough. So if you're going to make a niche film, the market that you're targeting is a lot lesser. So if you want to make a film, if you want to even create awareness about a subject and make sure that it reaches a lot of people, versus just a small group of film lovers or film critics, you need to have these elements in. And when film critics initially people from Asia, as you're saying, may have watched it, I think they would have found that jarring. I guess the musical numbers and people dancing out of nowhere, I think they would have found that jarring. But once again, you need to understand that the impact this film made wouldn't have been possible, at least in India, if it didn't have all those elements.
I'm wondering, well, I don't know, Jim, what do you like? Does it even? Well, yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on even the nature of my question? Like, does it make sense? Like I'm kind of struggling with it a bit. So
yeah. I mean, in terms of criticism about the film,
yeah. Like I'm wondering even if it's like Bollywood as a, I guess it's like Bollywood as a pejorative.
Yeah.
When you is that actually a thing? Like, I mean, and again, I'm cherry picking some criticisms. Like, one of the tough things for you and I, which is why it's so. Again, Shashank, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
But one of the tough things for you and I, Jim, is that we just don't have enough experience with the cinema, like that national cinema, which is, I mean, they're the here, fun fact for everybody, and there's a link to the article discussing it, but Bollywood, India is the largest producer of feature films, like in just pure quantity of film. And like we're talking triple the numbers of what the United States produces. Now, mind you, if you bundled it all together, US, UK, Europe, like Western cinema would probably be a little more comparable, but it's still kind of a remarkable. So yeah, us even talking about one film and Bollywood, what's that definition?
Yeah. I guess people can think that it might be a pejorative for people who haven't bought into it yet, right? It's like calling something a fantasy film if you don't like fantasy films, and so and that's actually a question.
That's a great question.
Well, that's something that I've been thinking about lately, just with what we've been doing and how we relate to films and that kind of thing. A lot of times you see a movie or even a TV show, and you can either be on the fence about it, you can not like it, you can like it. They can be of varying qualities. What I find is, personally, from what I'm thinking, is whether or not I buy into that. And I'm sort of wondering lately about the mechanics of that. Like, is it sincerity? Is it performance? Is it visuals? What is it that grabs? And it's got to grab you pretty quick. Otherwise, you're going to be like, get this out of here. I actually watch most of the things through. I try to watch everything that I watch all the way through. But I'm sort of wondering the mechanics of buying into something. And I was, for instance, with this one, I was into it pretty much right away. And once you buy into it, you're able to accept the dance number in the middle of everything. Yeah. I know we keep on harping on this, Shashank, but It's funny. There's a show on Amazon Prime called Hustlers.
Well, Jim keeps harping on it.
Yeah,
I was just fine with it all.
there's a show called Hustlers. Is that what's it called? Hunters. I'm sorry, Hunters. With Al Pacino, and it's about Jewish folks in the 70s in New York hunting down Nazis, and they have a dance number right in the middle of one of the episodes at Coney Island, the big Ferris wheel in front of the Ferris wheel there. And I have to think that that's sort of, inspired by Hollywood and Bollywood rather. Yeah. And 500 Days of Summer has a bunch of musical numbers, and even Spider-Man, the third Spider-Man there had a bit of a weird kind of a little chapter there when Toby got dark there. But so I guess for somebody who hasn't bought into something, Bollywood could be a pejorative, but to me, it's just something that I don't know enough about. It's fun when I see it, and I like the influence that it has on things that I watch from North America. You can tell it's maybe a bit derivative, but you can tell it's inspired by something else, and that's always that mashup of cultures. That's always kind of a fun thing, I think.
Well, and Shashank, like what? Like you're talking to a couple of North Americans. The vast majority of our cinema experience or film watching and for me a bit of filmmaking experience is from not just a Western ideal but a North American one. What do you think about this? What do you think about this conversation? Even.
No, I absolutely get it. I mean, for anyone who hasn't watched Indian cinema in general, I mean, watching a film for the first time, it's going to be a completely different experience. And I can understand the fact that you guys wouldn't, I mean, it would have been something completely unique for you, right? The song and dance numbers. Well, I mean, it could be jarring for people as well. So I completely understand.
I'm going to push back a little on that, only like not in a negative way, but I think actually, and you'll have to remind me and maybe ask us both this question again, but it makes me think of, I think we were already kind of prepped for it. Partly, and for two reasons. Just one, the recent 20 years, I can't list them off like Jim can, but we see this stuff already. Oh, heck, there's this great web series, like one of the first kind of web series that really blew up. The Gamers or The Group, or it was and they had a whole this is over 10 years ago. They did dedicated an episode which really was just an excuse to have a Bollywood story, song and dance number. But I think for the last 20 years, we could probably look at it and sort of kind of go, wow, we're seeing a lot of musical stuff in and how much of that is just that more filmmakers, television makers being influenced by that. There's been Bollywood stars in North American or Western cinema for a number of years now. So there's that, in some ways, although it's for me, absolutely, the first full Bollywood movie I've ever seen. It was like, I wasn't like, I was like, what? I've been exposed to a lot of that stuff. And then the other thing is, Jim alluded to this, I think the other reason why it's not this big shocker is, like, some of it's also, it's like, hey, Dead Poets Society, hey, there's only so many story subjects you can cover. Even the social issues are social issues that a lot of late capitalist societies have struggled with back and forth. But I think the other thing and this is what I'd like to dive into deeper even, is like to look at the history of Bollywood cinema and kind of go, okay, where did North American, I'm talking Busby Berkeley and like a North American classic 30s classical musical cinema started to influence, like where are they drawing influence from? I'd be kind of fascinated by that. Mm-hmm. So when it is the first time I've ever seen a true Bollywood movie, I've seen enough of those influences that I'm not shocked. Like it made it a lot more accessible to me. Again, I loved it. I want to watch it again. I'm even thinking, depending on how late we go, I may watch it tonight after this. It was good. Well, and I was cutting like so Shashank, just so you know, like I watched it Friday, partly because I got to get it in my head because I got to get the synopsis ready, right? But I'm cutting the synopsis and I'm going, oh, that was a good scene. Oh, I wish I could, but I only have so much time and I'm trying to make them tighter and tighter so I'm not just telling the first act. But it was, I was like, all I could think about is, I want to watch this movie again. This is fun.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Indian films are like that. They appeal more to the heart. They connect with you. I mean, necessarily they won't appeal to the mind, but when you see them, you can feel the emotions because they grab you by the scruff of your neck, and they like cry with us, laugh with us. So I mean, it definitely connects with you on an emotional level.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Can I just a quick question for you, Shashank? The especially towards the end of the movie, there was a lot of men, especially being emotional. Not a criticism. There's a lot of emotional scenes. There was a lot of, it wasn't that kind of toxic masculinity that you hear about a lot these days. Is that common with Indian cinema? Is there a lot of that kind of? Because on one hand, you can have the sort of the posing, the hero that sort of is invulnerable, and then on the other hand, you have
chewing on a urinal cake.
Well, these guys were all fairly vulnerable, and it was sort of refreshing, but
physical with each other. Jim.
Yeah. Is that common in Indian cinema?
I mean, if you talk about the character of Rancho, he appears to be like, above all. I mean, you can't really find flaws with him, but the other two characters, Farhan and Raju, absolutely. And I mean, it's a thing which they do more with supporting characters in India who, have those kind of broad emotions. But the hero is generally seen as, the person we need to look up to, or the person we need to learn from, or the person who has the least amount of flaws. Generally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating, Rancho.
Oh my God,
you are hard. No, that's fascinating, Shashank, because I really did. Like I was like, you have two types of heroes in a at least like looking at it from my context. There's either the agents who will be changed as they overcome obstacles, and then there's the agents of change. And I really do and I was being cute, but I meant it. Paddington Bear is the agent of change. He rolls into, like in Paddington 2, he was in a jail, and after a while it's all pink and flowers and everybody's just loving each other, right? And so this character is very much that agent of change. But we also have that hero that is the one who's changed. And we're supposed to, I think, we identify the character, let's say the education purpose, like the message of the film is you could be this person, you could start here and become this person to be admired. Does that make sense to you, Jim? Like, I mean, like it's from a North American or Western context, who's changing? Like, as I've complained about movies that we've watched here, going, the hero doesn't change.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all. I think you'd have to look at. I mean, it's clearly Rancho's movie, but I think in terms of they almost act as like a sort of a three-headed, not a monster, but a three-headed hero, right? Because they're all aspects of like this trio of friends. So, yeah, I'd have to think about. Well, I have to think about that a bit. Because the other guys, eventually it's Rancho that sort of spurs them on.
He's the inciting incident in many respects.
And then they follow through, right? So Farhan does confront his father, and Raju, he decides to sort of forego, he puts it more on himself rather than on the God, on God and faith and that sort of thing. Like he sort of takes more control of it himself. So
even in his active, like even when he was killing himself, or attempting to kill himself, I looked at it as a kind of I'm not throwing my friends under the bus. Like there was some courage, not just the courage of walking off the ledge, literally, but the courage of going, you've given me an impossible choice, so I've got a third way.
Yeah.
I can throw my friends under the bus, I could go home, or I could do this. Like,
so if Shashank's Rancho, I think that makes Rob Farhan, and I'd be Raju, perhaps. I don't know.
Well, but I'm wondering, like, Shashank, like, going back to that, like, I get what you're saying, and definitely for him, that's what he's supposed to be. But is there, like, you'd say, hey, it's about Rancho, but isn't it really about, like, I did it on purpose. I was really trying to kind of go, well, there's three idiots, and I know they're always referred to as three idiots, but I look at the one who doesn't change as one of the idiots. He's trying to teach. Yeah. The silencer.
Oh yeah.
Poor guy. I just keep forgetting his first name.
Chatur.
Interesting enough, an American actor. I've seen in a lot of American things. Actually, let's flip it around, Shashank, since got the camera on you anyway. What questions you'd asked me something I said save for tonight. What questions do you have of Jim and I? Like,
I mean, what did you guys think of these song and dance numbers? That was one question I had. I mean, did you guys find that jarring, or was it fine?
No, I mean, I thought they were great. You recognize at one hand, I think I wrote down some lyrics, Zooby Dooby, Pum Pum Para Pum, they're ridiculous, but at the same time, if you've bought into the spirit of the movie, if you're you've bought the ticket, you're along for the ride, then you're good. I mean, they're silly, but then it just sort of adds a whole bit of energy to it. Whenever you're dealing with sort of music and comedy, it really just infuses a lot of energy into whatever you're watching. You probably have heard that there's a skit comedy show in North America called Saturday Night Live, and some of my favorite skits are, and you can see them on YouTube or whatever, but some of my favorite skits are the ones when they introduce music into it, and it really just sort of brings everything up again. So I can absolutely see why you would include it, and it's fun, and you get you throw a lot of things in there. They were all showering and stuff, and all the suds, and I didn't count how many. I think there's 3 or maybe 4. But it's also a chance for the characters to sort of just not so much break the fourth wall, but they sort of relax a bit, and they're allowed to have some fun. I'm thinking specifically of Pia and Rancho. I think they had they
have their big love number.
It was a little bit of a La La Land thing, but again, this came out before La La Land, but it was the white tux and everything, and I'm not sure if they combined the Zooby Dooby and the Pum Para Pum numbers, because at one point they both the lyrics came together, which I'd have to watch it again, but musically that's kind of a clever thing if that's what they did. The characters can sort of let their hair down and have some fun, and you can almost see it in the actors' eyes too, especially the Pia character. Like, it looked like she was having a lot of fun too. So I love it. It brings it up. I wouldn't want to see it in the middle of I don't know, Guns of Navarone or something, Dances with Wolves. It's got to sort of fit the situation, but yeah, I mean, it's all good.
I'm wondering, like, I've got Jim and Shashank. So on the screen, I've got that reference to Sideways again. And I've recommended it to Jim. Don't know if he's even looked at it. But Shashank, I'd recommend looking this guy up. He's all about the music, and he does a lot of music and analysis of soundtracks, and because he's got a fine music background. But he talks about musicals and especially in Disney cinema and that, and he says, listen, you got talking until the emotions rise to a point where singing breaks out, and then when the emotions go too far for that, you go to dancing. And I think that's kind of what you see a lot in here, is where it's not as much a time to relax. Let's say it's Jim, a relaxation. Like if you watch it again, and I'll try and keep in mind on this too. But maybe that's it's they're relaxing into their true feelings more and more and more, where they're really they're letting their emotions out, and maybe that's what you're seeing. Does that make sense? And yeah, no, Shashank, look up Sideways.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the musical numbers in Indian cinema, they're more to represent what the characters or two characters are feeling at a particular point of time. So if they're feeling love towards each other, you have a Bollywood, you have a song number thrown in. And, if they're feeling sad, you have a sad song thrown in. So it's more of it's the heightened version of emotions they're feeling at a particular point in time. So basically, whatever they're feeling at a particular point in time in the story, that's represented through a song.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly, is that a picture of John Cazale on your back wall there?
Yeah, this is the Godfather. Actually,
it's the whole Godfather. Okay, I thought it was just Fredo. I thought, that's a commitment, but it's the whole.
Yeah, so that's Godfather.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I'm going to put this up to answer the same question Jim answered. If you look on the screen, this is my Google Play Music account, and it's been in my library since Saturday. Is the actual soundtrack. I really got it. It was just fun, and plus I like to get into the mood of the conversation. So I keep coming back to that, Shashank, that kind of thing where I thought, I wasn't as surprised as maybe I thought I was going to be. Maybe that's the big surprise. I was like, kind of, wow, I'm really rolling with this. Because, like Jim, I was like, 2 hours and 40, for the love of God, this is never going to end. But it really did. And then I thought, well, you got a bunch of, I'm sure there'll be dance numbers. You got songs. That's going to take up some time. But I'm surprised that I got into it so easily, so without, what, it wasn't. Now, mind you, I think there's something about, and I think Jim and I would probably be in that bracket. And I'd love to hear what other people are saying in the chat on this. And we've got Katie who's chimed in. Talking about the choreography. But you know what? If you're kind of into... let's get that out of your face there, Shashank. If you're kind of into trying different things anyway... you're kind of approaching it with an open mind. You're approaching it going, I want to be entertained. What do they need? I want to have fun. I want to enjoy this. So all of a sudden you're a little less, you dip into your suspension of disbelief a little quicker. You're just not going to be, because you want to try something different. You're just open to novelty. But does that make sense to you, Jim? Or Shashank, are you buying that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, let me. Here is Katie. Couldn't believe the choreography in some of those music sequences. Yeah, that were amazing. And I guess the all is. That's the all. Katie, you're referring to the all is well.
All is well. Yeah.
All is well sequence, right? Because it was just the whole thing. Well, and even going back to that, Shashank, and something Jim talked about was that there seemed to be all the characters, they hug each other, they're expressing their feelings, they're expressing their emotions. And I get that, but even Ranchu, Rancho was, it's like, hey, there's love is brought up, that real love for each other as friends in what would otherwise be read. I really think some of those scenes would be read from read as, and I don't mean this pejoratively, but read as queer. From a North American perspective, a Western perspective, where I was like, I found it really kind of refreshing that I don't think that's an appropriate read, but I don't know, like maybe, a lot of people like in India, the LGBTQ community is going, no, that's exactly what it is. I don't know. Can you comment on that?
I don't think it's anyway meant to be queer at all. I think possibly Indians by nature are a lot more expressive. So I think that culture is into us a lot. So we're a lot more rooted with our family and a lot more rooted with our friends. So everything by nature is a lot more expressive. And I can understand where you're coming from, but it didn't have any of those undertones for me, at least, because I can understand where that's coming from, right? So we are a lot more expressive in life.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can understand where you're coming from, but for someone like, let us say, an Indian watching this, they won't read it with those undertones in mind. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't think it was either. I'm just like, again, in a North American, if that scene was in a North American film.
Yeah, exactly. I can understand where you're coming from.
I really enjoyed the non, like, and I think this is what you're talking about, Jim. Is that it wasn't a toxic masculinity where everyone's, it just felt that, so you get to have that agape love within these guys that doesn't have those overtones.
Yeah, no, and it was just refreshing that it was
criticize a queer reading of a film.
Yeah,
I don't mean it that way either.
No, absolutely. No. One of the other things that surprised me too, and I this is just my own ignorance, is there was a lot of alcohol being consumed, and I was sort of surprised. Is it just like American colleges and universities, or Canadian, with getting drunk and that sort of thing quite often? Shashank?
I mean, I would say it happens everywhere, I think people are not open about telling their parents about stuff like this.
Yeah,
but things are, people do it everywhere. At least in India, people do it. People definitely do it. I know people who do it.
And I suspect the same parents, much like North America, parents around the world, around the globe, are going, yeah, sure you're drinking, you little shit. Yeah. I know exactly what you're doing when we're not around. What? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Rob, because, and you're as, and it, in retrospect, I'm kind of embarrassed that I have, I've seen, I've lived in Japan, so I've seen quite a few Japanese movies. We've been watching Korean movies. I've watched all kinds of European stuff, and I've watched a little bit of and I have to think that the gulf of my knowledge about Indian cinema is actually kind of embarrassing now. And I was sort of reading up on like Aamir Khan, who I thought was great, and super watchable. Like you could barely take your eyes off.
All were, right?
All of them. Like, it was a super strong cast, and they aged well too. Like, it seemed I could believe them as young guys. I could believe them as slightly older guys, especially Farhan. Like, because he had a little bit of mustache, and he just carried himself a little heavier, and not, but he just had more of a sort of, he had an older presence.
Not the weight I'm carrying now.
No, but he sort of, like, they really did seem to sort of do that sort of, I'm not sure what the time change was, 10 years maybe, and so they did that well, but I have to say that I'm pretty embarrassed that I haven't seen that much Indian film. But I thought Aamir Khan was great. I thought the other two leads, I have them written down somewhere, I thought they were great too. I was reading about
Madhavan and Sharman Joshi.
Yeah, thank you.
And that Aamir Khan's big in China apparently as well, according to Wikipedia anyway. Yeah. It was bugging me, just a quick aside here, it was really bugging me. I thought, man, who does he look like? And I thought, is it Dave Matthews? No, that's not it. Is it Tobey Maguire? No, it's not it. And then I was watching him, and when they did that sort of romantic dance number, and he was sort of dressed up, I thought, oh my God, and you guys are probably going to disagree with me, he looks like Eminem.
Really?
Go look at a picture of Eminem.
Okay, I'll watch it
and younger Eminem, with the cropped hair and stuff. But I just thought, oh my God, that's who it is. But anyway, I would totally watch stuff with these guys in it too. In terms of the cast, I was going to ask you, Rob, did anybody stand out? What did you think of their performances? That sort of thing.
There was not one. Now, no, I don't think a bad one. Okay, I don't want to say a bad performance, only because it's like you never. It's kind of like blaming the script. Well, I don't know what cuts were left on the floor. I don't. Maybe the person was just miscast or misdirected, right? Like, I mean, that said, I think we can say a miss, like just a wrong performance. I don't think there was one in this film. Everyone just delivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you got to be careful. There may be social cues that you and I aren't seeing, Jim, that Shashank might kind of go, yeah, X, I don't know, let's just pull Rahul Kumar, maybe he did not deliver like an Indian cinemaphile would kind of expect. But yeah, I don't think there's nothing where I was like kind of really. And yeah, some were like, I agree with you, Aamir. But what was interesting about the three is the way they worked together. Like the way there was such great chemistry between all three, and they kind of know, okay, this guy is our striker. We're setting up Aamir Khan. That's what we're here for. But at the same time, a generous actor is also, reacting and giving those other players a chance to shine. And you really see that in their interaction. And then Kareena Kapoor, what the like, dear Lord. It's like, and that's almost like, and actually the way she's lit, the way her makeup and that's like, I mean, there's like right out of the 30s, like, I mean, you can almost like, it's like, oh, we're just going to pull the focus just a little back, just soften it up a little. Like, I mean, but her delivery was great. Like, I mean, there's some, an actor's got comic chops, gets, he's got timing and everything. Yeah. Boman Irani, the Dr. Virus. You know what? I don't. That was all solid. Heck, Raju's family, like, I mean, in the over the top caricature of Indian poverty, and it's not to say that it's a, like, which is why I think it's kind of class aware. It's not like that family doesn't exist, but their willingness to dive into the whole 1950s film. Kind of
even how they used the paralyzed father a couple times as a bit of a sight gag, and he sort of came out of it, and he was riding on the, like in a sort of a dream sequence. The one thing that I would say is that and
well, wait, before let's put a button on one quick sec. Shashank, your review of the performance. Is there any? Like, what was your favorite? Was there any any weak ones as far as you're concerned, or what was your take on the performance?
No, to be honest, I didn't find absolutely no weak performances in the film. Yeah. But I think, the film is designed in such a way that the character of Rancho is supposed to stand out.
Oh,
but I think
absolutely.
It is. So I would probably say I like Madhavan and Aamir Khan's performance the most. Yeah, probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Aamir Khan.
Yeah.
Aamir Khan and Madhavan's. Yeah.
Okay, here, let me, and that's, go ahead, Jim.
Sorry, who did he play? Was that Farhan?
Farhan, yeah.
Aamir Khan is,
Rancho. Aamir Khan is Rancho. Madhavan is Farhan. Yeah.
Okay. And then that was the one that you liked, is Farhan?
Yeah, Farhan as
Well,
well as
both of
Aamir
them.
Khan as Rancho.
Yeah.
Both of them. Yeah.
What? Oh, and well, we'll come back to you for in a sec, Jim. I did want to ask you, Shashank. Then, well, I'll be able to replay this later, but. How were my pronunciations in the, was it nails on a chalkboard? Because I've obviously got a couple of them wrong, but.
No, they were pretty good. I was impressed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that attaboy. Now we can go back to Jim.
Sure. So in terms of, I mean, we should... there's a little couple things that I thought I would comment on. In terms of the cast, pretry much all
Katie
really good.
Agrees with you, Jim.
Oh, that's on. I think that he looked like Eminem. That came up right after we were talking about it.
Yeah.
But the guy who played, and this again, not so much a criticism, but the Dr. Virus. That was sort of a dangerous role because he was a little, he has the lisp, and he was both sort of it must have been a challenge for the actor because he was both supposed to be a character of ridicule but also formidable, right? And he had a lisp, and there's a couple times there when I thought they were trying to make him cross-eyed a little bit, and I just thought there's that's a little bit tricky. Not that it was a supernaturalistic movie, but that was probably the trickiest role. And I think he did a good job of it. But the other things, there's a couple of
on the like Jim, would you like? He is at times like, I mean, he gets into maybe not super villainy, but he behaves like truly cruelly at a couple of times, and then he's able to maintain ridiculousness and sympathy, like even to a point where he gets a redemption moment at the end, back to the hey, as long as it happens on a happy ending. India and Rob Christensen is happy.
The one character that it sort of reminded me of, and I was thinking, who does this remind me in all the things that I've watched? I don't know if you guys are familiar with the series Band of Brothers, but it's that big sprawling.
I'm watching it.
Oh, okay. So his character, and this will be good if you're familiar with it, and you can agree or disagree. His character reminded me a lot of the first episode of Band of Brothers, where they were all brought together because they had a crazy sergeant played amazingly by David Schwimmer. And he was sort of insane and angry and incompetent and comedic and all these
insecure,
and also he had the wrath, like he had the ability to make their lives hell. So of any of the characters that I've sort of watched in the last few years, that's who it sort of reminded me of. Different tone, of course, not as comedic and that sort of thing. And didn't have the redemption moment either, but that was sort of that was a real tricky role, I think, like a lot of the tonal things in this. Full marks to that guy. If I was directing it, I don't know if I'd go so broad, but that's the one comment on the cast that I thought I would make there. Rob, did you have any criticisms of the movie?
I think my criticisms of the movie, Jim, would be in it. I'm curious to hear to get Shashank's view on this, but I think most of mine are in the there seemed to be the dramatic question: who the heck is Rancho? Where is he? But who is he? That kind of develops. So there's that dramatic question, but I thought the thematic question, there's a bit of what is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of education? And also, asking questions about success. What defines success? And the ending, and even kind of there's this, which we see in North America, we see it in the Western world, that, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, to which I answer, and Shashank, this is where I'll patronize you, young man. I'll say, listen, even the best things in life are 80% tedious bullshit. Okay, but I think that excellence and success will follow that, although very well done in the movie. It's one of those things, that's good craft, because that has what they've been doing. That is what the final, let's say, maybe Dr. Virus isn't the weakest student. It's really, Chatter, the silencer, in the way that there he is chasing excellence, because that's been his whole mission on his dramatic mission, is to find this guy who's got all these patents, this paragon of excellence, and it's this guy, which should be the final, hopefully, in part 2 or the sequel, maybe that's the voyage of Silencer. But yeah, that's one of those things that I kind of almost viscerally reject. And it's also, I think it kind of gives up a class analysis, like a really kind of a, hey, how have we, and this is a late capitalist problem, the way we've structured our society such that it does become kind of a zero-sum game. And although I don't think the character of Rancho is literally saying that, I think that it isn't even questioned that, oh, well, he's just so excellent that of course he became rich. And I was like, no, you can be really excellent people who, the vicissitudes of life and they're run over by a car, or structural things where it's like, I don't care how excellent you are, you will be a fry cook. And that's, I'm being a little extreme there, but I think that would be my and even that, like, it's such a good ride. It's more of a, and this is kind of the way I starting to approach this, or probably why I've always approached it this way, Shashank. Notwithstanding my left-wing politics, I think it's more something that I would say people should be aware of, especially not even the intended subtext. That's important. But you can judge a film on the intended subtext. You can kind of say, well, I think he's trying to say this, but he didn't achieve it. Something we saw, Jim, in Badland. Mm-hmm. But in a movie like this, it achieves its intended subtext really well, which is more props to the filmmakers. It's the unintended subtext, the thing that I don't think the filmmakers or the talent, the on-screen talent, the writers, anyone really kind of intended, but I'm like, kind of, no, there's a message here. Everything's fine. We just need some tweaks in our education system. There's no real questioning of the structure that leads to abject poverty and this crazy competition. And so, that would be my critique. But Jim, at the same time, be aware of it, but watch the goddamn movie. It's awesome. Yeah. It's such a good film.
Yeah,
it's so much fun. Let's say intended subtext. Yeah, it's just fun. And one criticism and actually, maybe I can even just read it in 1 second here. I really thought this was bang on. Subhash K. And it's J-H-A, so Ja?
Yeah.
It's not that Three Idiots is a flawless work of art, but it is, and this I totally bought. It is a vital, inspiring, and life-revising work of contemporary art, of pop art, I'd say, with some heart imbued in every part. This is bang on. Yeah. It's a movie with heart. I may disagree with the unintended subtext, but I'm not calling the filmmakers liars. They believe it. Yeah. Three Idiots provides hope. And this is talking about, in here, the critic is talking about the suicide, the discussion of suicide. But it says, maybe cinema can't save lives, but cinema sure as hell can make you feel life is worth living. And that I even get a little misty, and that I totally, another reason to see the movie. Yeah. But there's still like again, an unintended subtext to me.
Yeah.
You guys might, Shashank clicks off. He's full of shit.
No, I completely understand. But I mean, if you don't achieve that level of excellence, already you're not in competition for. If you don't achieve that level of excellence, you're already not in competition for achieving that level of success. So your best shot at achieving success is to first, learn the mechanics of a craft perfectly.
Kind of like Donald Trump learned the mechanics of, nothing. Lying? He's not even a good liar.
I understand, yeah.
Sorry, Shashank. But no, there is a. Okay, finish your statement, and I want to kind of talk about it a bit more, so I really understand where you're coming from.
No, I think the film argues that if you have to achieve any level of success, first you need to get in the position where you deserve that success, or where you're in the running for success. Mm-hmm. So unless you're up in that level, right, you're an expert or you're someone who completely knows your craft, your chances are you're not even going to be running in competition for that. So if you're just going to be swayed away by the monetary rewards of a particular craft, chances are you're not going to put in the hard work. It's going to be more of shortcuts, and it's going to be more of, let me get the easy way in order to achieve this, and chances are that you won't achieve it. I think that's what the film argues, like, don't take shortcuts. If you want to achieve something, do it the right way, achieve it rightfully, and achieve it by knowing the mechanics of the trade completely, or your craft completely.
Do you think some of it, though, also, too, or this is something, and something I'm more comfortable with, but do you also see there's a discussion within it about just the joy of, in this case, the joy of learning? Hey, if we dial this back, just to enjoy it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, in a scene when he puts, I don't know if you guys remember, but he has a scene where he writes on the blackboard Farhan and Raju's name, and he says that you have 30 seconds
Radulation and Farhanize or something,
Farhanize realization. So, he says in that, did you guys enjoy learning? Did you guys feel that you're going to learn something new today, or was it just like a race to find those two words? So, absolutely. That's what the film argues, right? Rancho comes first not because he is, intending to be first, but because he actually has joy in learning. He genuinely has joy in learning, to the point where the degree is going to some other guy, right? Everything that he's done is eventually going to go to another person, but he's doing it for the joy of doing. If you do it for the joy of doing, things are going to come down. I think that's what the film argues.
Gotcha.
It could be a bit idealistic, but I think that's what the film argues.
Yeah. No, that's great. And what... if you, like, is it... Yeah, I don't know, Jim, like... although, actually, okay, here's a... And I know sooner or later you actually have to go to school. That said, before this happens, I do want you to think about... what if... and this is just kind of going out there before we jump over to Jim. Look at Old Boy again. And then go, how could we Bollywood this movie? How could we get the whole family to watch? What is the Hindi Bollywood that could get your mom and dad and you and your sister out to the theater to go, there's something for everybody here.
That's a good, like, comparing Korean to Indian cinema.
Yeah, because Korea is like, no, we're giving you human misery.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Suck it up.
It's like, some sort of Hitchcockian kind of thing versus, color and lights and dancing and travel and all kinds of things. But, yeah.
Well, Jim, like, flip the question back to you. What, any particular things where you're kind of like, there's something up here, or any criticisms that come to mind?
Not so much on the deeper end there. Again, I just finished, it's a fairly heady 3-hour movie that I just finished a little bit ago. So I'm still, it's one of those things, and it's always a good sign of a movie if you're thinking about it the next day, or you kind of sort of feel the texture of it, in your brain a little bit.
Like a really good meal.
Yeah. And
you're just
sort of like, and I suspect, I did watch a little bit of it last night. Just I've had a couple of big days of work in the last couple of days, and then I finished it off today. But the criticisms that I'd have, it's really hard to, and again, this is me. It's really hard to talk about things like success and not sound aspirational in that sort of North American sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe I would replace success with mastery. That's just me, though. Like, that's one of the turnoff things. If I'm on Twitter and I see a thing with an eagle and American flag, I'm out. Like, I just you can be as patriotic as you want, but as long as you're sort of like, this is me.
That.
It's one of those key things that I don't love. So in a way, it sort of sounded like those. The greatest salesman in the world books that my dad used to
Zig Ziglar,
Og Mandingo, whatever.
Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar is and the sort of
but even now on Instagram,
you
see that inspirational,
and that wasn't, and I want to say that didn't come. That didn't really come across. The last couple of lines I probably would have written differently. Yeah. It would be a lot like my other Indian films that I've made. But anyway, I would have written the last few lines maybe a little bit differently. In terms of like really in-depth criticism, not much. Some of the little things I think were the kind of constant sound effects and the pretty heavy musical cues. Like they had a little piano thing that was going through it whenever they showed the dean and that sort of thing. But Jim, aside from that,
we saw those musical cues in 16 Candles.
Yeah.
That was really musical cues and sound effects, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to. I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to ask Shashank: is that a common thing in Let's say we'll call this Bollywood, just to give it a genre, or maybe not a genre label, but a storytelling style. Is that like a pretty common thing? It's very theatrical. That music
Absolutely.
and sound effect cues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It is present in most of the mainstream commercial films. So once again, it's more like telling you what to feel than, it's not subtle in a sense. I mean, it's not what you make of it, but it's more like, this is what we're telling you to feel right now. It's almost manipulative in a sense.
Well,
but most of the
all film is manipulative.
Yeah.
Here, we'll turn out the lights. Turn off your goddamn phones. Here, before we, I do want to, and let's put us all here. I do want to take this opportunity, because I've only shown it once, is just to let's all beg for the like, ask for the subscription, and let's not forget to ring the bell.
Ding-a-ling-ling.
Thank you, Jim. Shashank, what did you like? And I wanted to ask you this. I'm kind of wondering, like, if you were to tell anyone, there are viewers after this, but, to the folks who are watching, to Jim and I, the next time we see a Bollywood film, and there's still a couple other flicks on your list. So we will, I suspect, revisit this in the show. But what would you tell someone who's just kind of, they're clicking through, they're sorting through Netflix, they see something. What would you tell them to help them make that leap? To help them and set themselves up for success, a good viewing experience.
I think you should be in a particular frame of...
for the entire cinema, Shashank. Your whole culture is riding on this question.
I mean, if you're going to watch a Bollywood or an Indian film, I mean, let us take Bollywood, you need to be in a certain frame of mind to watch it if you're a non-Indian film watcher. So you need to be prepared to, feel all the emotions. You should be thinking by the heart, not by the mind. I mean, I know it sounds corny, but to be honest, you shouldn't, I mean, to be honest, you shouldn't overanalyze. You shouldn't overanalyze everything in a film. It should be more like
Have you
what it
met
needs
our
to be.
show?
That's the point.
But no,
mean-
yeah.
I mean, you should be in a frame of mind where you're receptive to all the emotions that it's throwing on you. I mean, if you are in a position where you can feel by the heart, not by the mind, I think things would work out.
I'm turning that into a. We got a couple from you. It's a cabaret. Watch. I got to say, watch with your heart is yeah, that makes very very. And I would say that also. I don't know if you'd agree with me, Jim, but I do think that to watch a movie, first you have to be open to it, and like even to be a good critic, if that's what we are, whatever. Like you want to get the most out of a movie. That first view really does have to be okay. I'm going to let this thing happen to me, and I've certainly read like critics, like actual top tier. Hey, they get paid to do that for a living. Where their look is open. They try and stay open to the movie to have it act on them emotionally, like you say, in the heart.
Yeah.
They are trying to listen with they're trying to be in the movie, in the heart of the movie.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that's both great advice, but especially for something that's say out of your cultural comfort zone.
Yeah.
So no, solid advice.
I think one of the things
Watch
about
with your heart. Another
I've-
Shashank Vchari. And is it Vchari? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Chari.
Chari.
Vchari.
Oh, Vchari. Vchari.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vchari. Let's
um,
say that 5 times fast, Jim.
the one of the things about this show, I've often thought, boy, Rob and I like a lot of these movies, whereas should we be liking them? But I mean, we're choosing them, or they're chosen for us, and it's not like with professional critics, they have to watch everything, including the things that they think will suck. And so when they watch a movie that they've been looking forward to, bam, they have a greater appreciation for it because they have to wade through so much stuff too.
Or they lose their minds when they watch something that they're convinced is going to be good and it sucks like The Five Bloods.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, sorry. I've now interrupted.
No. But yeah, I mean, there's some that we haven't liked and that kind of thing. But I mean, when we're selecting them, we're like, yeah, I'd like to see that. It's almost never that Rob and I have said, I'm not looking forward to that at all. Let's do that one, So, we're sort of primed to like it in the first place.
Absolutely right.
So.
Where there is there is a bias, a selection bias in our, like, okay, let's be all hipster. We're curating this experience.
As they say on Superstore, you're allowed to use that word one time a week.
What do you think, though? And Shashank, like, I mean, you're in a similar boat. Like, I mean, as you're building your YouTube channel to review films, to talk about films as well. Like, I mean, depending on where you want to take it, you get to pick and choose a little. It's like, I mean, I'm not to say that there isn't a value in every now and then seeing a bad film, partly, I don't know, like a palate cleanser, or maybe just to kind of go, because you can draw value from a bad film. I'm glad we saw The Five Bloods, even though it was bad. Partly it was just, I think it's maybe one of our best shows to date. Well, except for this one, Shashank.
Yes.
And the one we did last week with another great guest.
There you go. Kyle, yes.
Number 3 on the list. Number 1 of the unguested shows.
I get it.
I don't know. What do you like? What do you think about that, Shashank? Like, I mean, that curation and.
I mean, it depends on what your channel is about, right? So if you want to appeal to, like, in the course we're taking, right, focus it down on a niche, target that audience. So I think it depends on the audience you're targeting. But I mean, even I curate my films a lot. Like, if it's a bad film, I just don't watch it. But I think it shouldn't be like that. I mean, you should watch all kinds of films, because that is when you have diversity. And it's not always that you need to be serious about a film and that, intellectualize it. But I think that there needs to be diversity. But specifically, that's for film watching. But specifically for the channel, it purely depends on the viewers that you're targeting.
Yeah,
the niche that you would want to target.
I'm more like thinking of like our development as like I'm a lot more. I'm really happy that Jim and I started this. It's been a great experiment, and you know what? There may be a point where Jim and I eventually do just get tired of it. We want to do something different, or go our separate ways, or whatever. But right now, I'm like, I'm looking forward to next week already.
Yeah.
And the opportunity, like Jim, we're just kind of in this a year ago, sitting in a Tim Hortons. Here we are, a year later, and we're getting recommendations from an Indian, an Indian cinephile, and being able to ask him, and that reminds me, but being able to ask him these questions and get some of that cultural nudging that maybe we're getting right, maybe we aren't. Speaking of which, Shashank, how much, like, I was really surprised. The subtitles were on the whole time, but how much of it whereas like slips in with Hindi and then like whole English phrases, and then I looked at the math. This was not a big export product. Like, it did very well, outside of India, but 30 million USD in global box office is not a big number. Like, it was designed for the Indian market. How much, how many people speak English? Very convenient to Jim and I, but I was like really shocked, like how much English is mashed up in everything else.
Yeah, I think since the 2000s, the films have been a lot more anglicized, and Indians generally have a tendency of moving from one language to the next. So even in my home, right, so we talk in English, we talk in Tamil sometimes. That's my mother tongue, Tamil, and then we talk in Hindi sometimes. So we have this tendency to move. Yeah, exactly. Just when we're talking, we'll ask a question in English, we'll reply to it in Hindi or Tamil, depending on how it goes. We may mix the sentences. Like one sentence would be, so basically if I'm giving an answer to a question in English, one sentence would be in Hindi, the other sentence would be in Tamil. So like we have this tendency to mix languages a lot. And it's something that I don't think happens anywhere else in the world. It's completely unique to us. But we just seamlessly move through languages.
Well,
it's pretty unique.
It was very cool. Like I can imagine, based on what you're saying, first of all, it's great to get that confirmed that that's what we were actually seeing, is that, this isn't a, you say, and now we have the made for the export market part. You know what? That it's actually reflective of, like, no one in an Indian movie house is going, what the, this isn't Mulan 2.0. But also, Shashank, that I can only imagine what a great, Jim, imagine you're in that milieu where you can kind of go, oh, no, the way I need to communicate it this way, so I'm going to use English, but Tamil has something that covers my meaning better, so I will say this, and then Hindi. That gives you a range of, especially, like, I'm thinking slang, and again, I don't mean that in a bad way, but in slang and idiom, that a lot of other cultures, like I know, like I've been to Europe several times over the last decade, and everyone, well, I should say everyone, but so many people speak English as a lingua franca. So the French person and the German person, they may not know, they won't know each other's language, but there's a good chance they'll know English. So that's how they'll converse amongst themselves. But once they're back with other Germans, it's all German. Even the ones who everyone can speak English in the family, because I've stayed in that home, but they're naturally comfortable in German, period. Yeah. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I remember when I was in India in the 90s, and you would go to a train station and there'd be posters,
before Shashank was born.
Yes, yeah. And there'd be posters in the train station saying, from Kerala to this, we're all one great nation in English. So there's all these sort of, there'd be all these little sort of, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, but sort of not nationalistic, but just sort of like happy India kind of posters and literature and stuff like that.
You know what that reminds me of, Jim?
All in English.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'll be having classes in 10 minutes, so I'll
Oh my God!
Okay, all right. Well, listen. First,
it's been great. It's been great chatting with you guys.
It's been awesome. Oh my goodness, we have Jelly Duck showed up.
Yes,
Fudge.
Hey,
we got this whole action. Well, let's say, listen, Shashank, this has been great. If you're up for it, we'll have to do it again. And like I said, if there's any way, myself or Jim and I can participate in what you're doing, call on us. We'd love to. And to the chat, look at this. Yeah, Fudge, Jelly Duck's here. Well, at least, the other folks and Jim pointed out and saw everyone was here. Jelly Duck. Let's all give the wave to Jelly Duck. Jelly Duck. And Shashank's a big... Okay, Shashank, I'm going to say to everyone in the chat, if you have a question for Shashank, chime in anyway. We are in contact with him, and either we save it for the next time he's on the show, or I can send it to him directly. Shashank, where can everybody find you on the internet? What and what do you got coming up? Give us a quick pitch.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel which covers reviewing classic films and TV shows. So you can find me on the internet at Shashank Vchari. I guess you can pin my link in the comment section.
I will.
Link to my
yes.
Yeah.
I'll throw that in there. And they could just search you in YouTube, Shashank Vchari.
Yeah, exactly.
We could search that, but I'll put a link to your channel and your most recent review, which was of Better Call Saul, which was an interesting discussion. All right. Hey, Shashank, thank you so very much for joining us.
Yeah, nice meeting you online anyway, and through video chats. Cool. And that was awesome.
It's wonderful.
This is super cool. All right, brother, I will. I'll let you go now and have fun in class.
Great suggestion, by the way. This was a great movie. Yeah, killer. I think other people were impressed too. So
absolutely.
We've got a few folks that are thanking you that they really enjoyed it, and this is just awesome. All right, Shashank, we'll kick you off now. We'll talk bad about you afterwards in classic Canadian. Goodbye. What a jerk. Not at all. Thanks again, man.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye.
Absolutely.
He's just like Chatur. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
But that was awesome, eh? Like,
it was a lot of fun. And when you think about it, just the in terms of being able to hook up a 13,000 kilometer bridge, that's pretty crazy. So it's very cool. Very cool.
This was, I'm really glad. I'm glad he engaged. I'm glad we took up the opportunity, Jim. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to go, let's try this Indian thing. I don't know, something about idiots. Another thing to, not just to get it recommended, but somebody there to kind of double check your thinking, to kind of give us a context. That was super, super duper awesome. I mean,
and he clearly knows his stuff. So
quite the prodigy, his own. The Rancho of film criticism can you only imagine what he'll be like in 5 years when he graduates, however long he's going to be at school. We didn't even ask what he's... Shashank, if you watch the rest of this, let us know, comment on what you're studying in school. It's mechanical engineering.
I was wondering, is he in dorms? Like, is that the...
No, it's all online right now because, of course, COVID, right?
So he's just at home.
Yeah. That's why it's class in 10 minutes.
I'm sorry.
He's literally just going to basically shut us down and went, all right, let's listen to a lecture now.
He has to go grab some fafta and handwa. No, I'm just kidding. I wrote down some of the foods that I saw on the thing.
Listen, folks, we're not done yet. I'm not, but I did want to kind of tease everyone, just to kind of put the bug in your ear. Jim and I have been talking about this, and halfway through October into early November, we're going to kind of take us. I know this will shock you. We're going to take our show political, but in a ramp up too. So think about politics movies that Jim and I might want to take a look at. Jim and I already have some ideas written down, but love to hear what you think. Keep that in mind.
Why, is there some important political thing happening this fall?
I was just thinking out loud. It seems to be a good time.
Yeah.
We definitely want to hear from everyone, but also want to hear, was there anything on this movie, like for those who are in the chat, Jelly Duck, I don't know if you've seen that. Did you get a chance to see the movie this weekend, or have you seen it already before? But Richard and Katie, any things that we didn't cover or stuff that we covered, that you didn't agree with, or you got something to add to it, love to hear you chat about that. What's that, Jim?
I was just, it was one that we had sort of put a pin in earlier, and I was wondering if you, and I did, and we covered a little bit, but in terms of making something like Three Idiots for the Hollywood, through Hollywood, via Hollywood, would that even catch? Would that even take? Like, could you even get away with half of what they did?
That's a great question, and again, great for all of us. I don't know, Jim. Like, that's a tough one. Like, first of all, some of the, you got to ditch the suicide. Say they get depressed, they got sick, or I just don't see you able to have upbeat, like that kind of comic over the top upbeat with it, unless it's interesting. Shashank talks about the whole family's got to go or it won't make any money. It won't, whereas I think it'd be like, you can do it. That's art house. Go find a couple of big stars, but then it'd be made all about that star instead of this larger ensemble.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jim. I don't. What is here we go. Oh, man. Jelly Duck was actually just watching Monty Python's The Holy Grail. What do you Jim? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think you could, and that's the sort of the thing that makes watching foreign movies, and that I've always loved about it. For people not from Winnipeg, there used to be, right near the University of Winnipeg, there used to be an old movie house called Cinema 3. It was sort of a little bit slightly run down, but it was run by a pair of sisters. I think there was a deeper history there. Maybe there was a brother involved, and they had one of those ticket booths out front, like the old school ticket booths, and the same woman that would take your tickets.
Out.
Yes,
bump out. Yep.
And the same
right
woman
off
that would
of just shy
Ellis.
of Ellis at Sherbrooke.
Yeah, right across from the West End Cultural Center, and then the same woman that would take, you'd buy the ticket from, then she'd run around to the candy stand and would man that, and it was sort of a great old 1950s feel. On the inside there was a airplane on a little tiny model airplane on the side of the wall. And anyway, they played movies. They played foreign movies there. I saw Wings of Desire there. I was just talking about with some folks on Twitter, so foreign movies have always been a little bit different. They introduce you to new people, as we've said before. They introduce you to new cities. Like, I've never been to, even on screen, I don't think I've been up to northern India, like Shimla and Ladakh and the places that they covered there.
Does it make you want to go?
Oh, absolutely. When we went to the desert, and then we went to the sea. So it actually in Chennai, where Shashank is now, before he was alive, sadly. But and we didn't go to the mountains. That sort of to the north, and boy, and the Lonely Planet guys are all about that. Darjeeling is sort of in that area, sort of a high area. But man, what a great travel log, without being too corny about it. But it just they just showed so many. Especially the last, I'd say, 45 minutes of the movie when they're in the oh yeah, there you go, in the mountains there. That was just great. But so foreign movies introduce you to all these things, all these things that you may not be able to get away with in America, like Let the Right One In, the vampire movie, the Scandinavian vampire movie. They tried it here. I didn't see the remake, but the first one was great. You sort of Wings of Desire too, the great movie about angels coming down to earth, and it's German, Wim Wenders. I would hate to see an American version of that, or American version.
There was one with
was there?
Reese Witherspoon and Nicolas Cage, and there's a reason you don't remember it.
Yeah. Well, having said that, it's a German movie with Peter Falk, which is even more awesome. And I know you're there. I can feel you. You've been here since I got here. That's not a... But that whole, and it turns out, well, spoiler... Yeah, I don't want to... It's a spoiler zone, but I don't want to give the spoiler away
because we're not covering this movie.
Anyway,
absolutely right. Yeah.
So, so with this one, the way it can play with things is sort of, being made over there, and you can include the musical numbers, and you can include this, and you can be goofy, and you can have the sound effects in a movie that has a large portion about suicide. I can't see that mix happening, with any sort of film factory that I'm familiar with anyway, without destroying it, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, that's interesting, Jim. That's one of the things I loved about it. And again, going back to that, how caring and overtly caring they were for each other. Mm-hmm. And now, mind you, some of it also may be that I'm so physical contact starved because of COVID-19, that I might be just, oh my goodness, you can't have actual human contact.
Yeah.
Why? I want that. But no, still the way that, and Shashank referred to it, that expressiveness, although at the same time, they had no problem. Very un-Canadian in their willingness to express anger and contempt for others. That's not just only positive emotions expressed zone. But I really did enjoy that, and I did I'm looking forward to watching it again, but also to kind of they manage tone really well. I wonder if part of it is that the darkest parts are mostly actually comic, and then those little almost spikes, they don't dwell on it. It's not this, it's the terrible thing happens, and then it's that's awful, and then they move on, much like real life does. You don't, Dead Poets Society or any, very American drama. It's, and now we will dwell on this for a couple more scenes. There'll be not a comeuppance, but there'll be massive consequences. That just hammer home the point. Whereas here it's that did happen. That's part of what's awful about this. Let's go back to our heroes and see how they're going to react, how they're going to keep going forward. Yeah.
On a technical note.
Can you imagine, though, your 7-year-old kid? Come on, let's go. We're going to go see a movie. That ends well.
My
All's
wife,
well that ends well.
my wife still tells the story of when her parents took her. She was 7 or something, along, still pretty young, to
Yep.
Jaws, and she wouldn't go on to the bathroom by herself after that because sharks equal water. But anyway,
Yeah.
On a technical note, I was just the presence. When I said this movie's got everything, rubber babies, etc., etc. Initially, I said drones, and you're the drone guy.
Yeah.
2009. That was probably pretty early, I guess. In terms, was it?
Yes, it was. And I actually suspect their aerial shots were probably helicopters, but it could have been drones.
Yeah.
DJI, I think, was already around then.
Yeah.
The world's leading manufacturer of drones. But certainly it would have been because I was like, it seems, although it was only 10 years ago, and let's say from a production and writing standpoint, 11 years ago, production writings was 12 years ago, but YouTube, what did that start? 2007?
Yeah, and they were sort of in terms of the product placement. I saw an Aquafina bottle. There was a thumb drive with the logo.
Who the heck does that anymore? Yeah,
delivering babies by YouTube was kind of an interesting thing at that point too. So. Until the power goes out, of course. But and even in terms of finding the reveal of the one character, the Joy, the character, the male character named Joy, the reveal of his suicide was by drone. It was if you remember that scene, it was like a big fun. We're gonna show him what we did. We rescued his drone, and we're gonna show him how it works. And oh no, and that was.
Did you have that moment where there's a part of me that's like, guess you shouldn't have kept it a secret from him? No, it'll be a surprise. No, that's just me being an SHIT. Okay, Jelly Duck chimed in. YouTube started 2005.
Yeah.
DJI founded 14 years ago, 2006.
Okay.
So, yeah, and that's founded and really early on. They weren't doing big cinema rigs.
No.
A couple years later. So I strongly suspect, I don't know, but I strongly suspect any of the aerial shots were either big crane, like a big movie cinema crane, or helicopter. Especially that stuff over in the mountains and everything. That was a chopper. God, beautiful cinematography there. But I'm wondering, you get some places, some locations where it's like, how can you take a bad picture? You really have to just stick your camera in a garbage bin in say Banff to go, oh, that doesn't look impressive at all. Wait, here, let me change the look up, and I'm wondering if some of that is just the cinematography is great because it's a stunning country. Yeah.
And the further north they went, it was not even, it got a little dustier, a little more treeless, and that didn't impact it at all. There was the one shot where there was a river.
That high north desert.
Yeah. Even then it looked beautiful, but and the whole setup of the final shots on that spit of land with the flags and the tents and all the color. And there was even one shot where it was like a aerial shot of them looking down at a car, and there was a river behind it, and the car made a turn, and then the next shot was this sort of landscape of rock, and then there was two monks in their crimson robes, sort of in the mid ground there, and I just went, oh, come on. Of course there's a couple of monks,
come on.
Get out of here with your scenery. It was pretty cool. And then I sort of think, I remember reading those Lonely Planet guides and saying, you really do yourself a favor and go up to Shimla. And I'm like, yeah, we'll go to the desert and then we'll go to the ocean. And I just, I was like, maybe we should have gone up to we went to other highlands and things like that.
Oh, yeah. But it is like anytime
you can't see everything.
Yeah, you can't see everything, but I have not been as motivated to go to a place as I think the most recent time I got that motivated, I want to see that, was actually seeing pictures of Richard and Katie's honeymoon when they were in Carcassonne. And I'm like, that's a real place? I need to go there. And I'm thinking Shimla is like kind of, maybe I do want to go to India. Now we want to see that. Which is kind of remarkable.
Understandable.
I think we are kind of starting to wind down a little. Any final thoughts?
Sure, yeah.
As I once again beg for likes and subscriptions because I can't help myself. Some of I'd sort of have to watch it again. I didn't know the word rusticated, meaning expelled. And that was a fairly, it was almost like a key word. It was a word of shame. And they kept on saying, you've been rusticated. And I thought, what? So I did look that up. Expelled. And
it means being expelled but from a post-secondary education, like a college or university or something like that. Gotcha. I suspect it's an older word that might have had, English roots or something. No, just there was a few little things that I did notice that there was one scene where Raju was talking and he actually said in English, he was saying part in Hindi and part in English. Basically, he was saying, my job is my girlfriend and my wife, and it was translated as passion as well as ambition, and so the translation of the subtitles, I agree, was kind of interesting. There's just a few little. I was surprised by the amount of alcohol. I guess I shouldn't have been. It was. I
totally bought it. University students getting drunk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I sort of wondered, in terms of India is sort of known for its modesty in a lot of, the women have to be dressed a certain way. We didn't really touch on that with Shashank, but I was thinking that might transfer on to things like alcohol and that sort of thing, but it clearly doesn't. So
I'm wondering, first, even the modesty. It's such a big country. Yeah. It has a modern urban. I'm thinking of. We've both been to Turkey. We've been to.
I haven't. No, I haven't. That's one of the ones.
Yeah.
Not yet.
And that is the right way to think about it because it's worth it. But I'm thinking of. There I am in Istanbul, and yes, I saw, and really at times I was really pushing some, cultural comfort buttons in me. So I certainly saw lots of women in full burqa and. But at the same time, I also saw just Western dress because it is a big urban, like a modern metropolis, as modern as any other, is a capital city as old as it is can be. And so you saw that as well, and I think that's the same with India. But I'm also, is there sometimes we in the West, when we think of, we've so got it burned into ourselves that you can't drink in Middle Eastern countries, and it'd be interesting to hear if Jelly Duck's still here with us, for him to comment on this. We've got that so burned into us that we all of a sudden, anywhere where any Muslim is, or we hear modesty and, because of that we start to kind of go, oh, it must be drinking as well. It's just slipped in our brain. make it.
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
articulating that as well as I
no,
could,
but it's all sort of about the, for me, my lack of knowledge, or that I haven't kept up with it entirely, or what have you. Yeah. No, I was going to.
We got a last chat from Shashank.
Yeah. Hey, Shashank. Get to
Yeah,
school, young man.
Thanks a lot, guys, for having me over. Had a great fun talking. Yeah, and we did too, Shashank.
Yeah. No, it was a great. As we said before, it was a great suggestion,
saying,
Jim. I think there's other things we missed too. They kept on talking about. I wrote down all of the foods that Pia was making reference to, making fun of, making reference to. She said all these Gujarati foods, they sound like weapons, and so I wrote them all down. Yeah, they're all Gujarati, so largely vegetarian. So there's elements of this. I saw.
when she was all liquored up.
Yes, yeah.
On.
You should have some dakla, I think. And then, so there was a few others. There was fafta, handwa, thepla, kakra. They're all various sort of snacks and that kind of thing. But he was from Gujarat, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the state that Gandhi's from. And it's towards it borders Pakistan. Anyway, but then he ended up.
It was on the map and following their chase, the hunt, the search.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
the search journey part. It was like they're just getting further and further north. And hey, there's Islamabad, and there's because they're close to Bangladesh, and
But he ended up
Russia.
north. So I thought, does he have sort of connections up north? And anyway, so there, I'm sure there's stuff that we missed, like little things. There was one shower scene, and they saw a guy with it. They showed a guy with a chain. The one he had, I guess, he had facial hair, and he had that sort of chain. And I think that's a caste thing. It's one of the higher castes wears the chain. So there's little things that I think just like when we watch an English thing, something English, that we may miss out on an accent, or a class, something about a class, or like a hyphenated name, meaning that you're from the higher ranks or whatever.
Well, even that, and it's kind of pressed on it that he's Tamil and these guys are Hindi, or Tamil, like a Tamil speaking, and grew up in he's Ugandan, like that reference to their diaspora.
That was interesting too,
diaspora. But they're the far-flung community, and how they use that, it's almost like an elitist thing to, work on it, and that Silencer character being such a social climber that he is, that he's not, you bet, boss, let me read, and, even at the beginning, the Madeira, liquor, he's still at the very beginning. He's still using translators as he's, trying to forever climb that ladder.
And that's one of the things that I wonder about, is because the actor is from California. So does he have an accent issue, or does he look different, or is his dental work different, or something? If he grew up in the States, is that how they explain away his character?
I expect you, if you watch, to answer this question in the comments. Continue, Jim. Yeah.
He's from Uganda. He's not from here. He's Indian background, but he's not necessarily, wasn't raised here anyway. So I sort of, there's little cultural things that I think are interesting, and that Ugandan thing was really. I'm actually just reading about Paul Theroux's writing about Fiji, and he's talking about some of the issues there, that people are, both Fijian and they're Indian, and yet they're neither. So, it's
kind of like Chinese, like as part of that larger, there are Chinese communities. You can find Chinese communities all over the globe. You can find Indian communities all over the globe. And even here in Winnipeg, Tamil, Hindi, Sikh, and we didn't even touch on that.
No.
Yeah. But I think that's a part of what was great about this film. Even now, it's gender stuff, from our perspective, from my perspective, let's say, but from a North American perspective, this is not a... no. But at the same time, she was a killer character in agency. At no time did she didn't even. It's funny, like they kind of picked her up on the way of their journey, but that was what do you mean? Oh, we could? Let's go get her. And they don't. There's some hijinks, but at no time are you going. And they saved her from a fate worse than death.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And
that's a good point. Yeah,
she is never. She drives her own bus. Like, I mean, there's some hijinks in that, but you're not. She every time she was on the screen, you felt she's like,
She made the choice to go with them and that kind of thing. I mean, they did
but
sort
in any scene.
They did sort of prevent her from marrying that idiot, but not one of the three idiots, but the unlikable guy,
the asshole.
Yeah, and then she's the one. I
referred to him specifically as an asshole.
She's the one that confronts the dean about his son's suicide too, and that was kind of like,
At no time was she ever a passive character.
Not
once.
Now
from the get-go,
it took them a while.
Like someone. She is like Princess Leia. If we're gonna call her princess, she's like Princess Leia. Like, immediately has a presence, immediately in conflict with others in the best way. Like, she has an agenda.
Yeah. And having said all that, though, I mean, it took them a while. It took the filmmakers a while to get to the first non-mother, non-sister. Yeah. Well, she is somebody's sister, but not Raju's mom or sister, or not Farhan's mom. And it took them a while to get there.
Spinsterhood.
Like, it was about an hour in or something. Wasn't it?
Literally right at the end of the first act.
Yes,
And I was able to cut her in. Like, that's kind of,
Yeah. So, but it did. I mean, there weren't a lot of roles for women in this.
Maybe the beginning of the second act.
Well, yeah.
But like, I mean, it's a 2 hour and 45-minute movie.
Yeah, and Richard's pointing out that she was a doctor as well. So so that, I mean, she wasn't a shrinking violet.
Yeah, exactly. She was accomplished and beautiful. She and even to everyone. The absolute, like, and I put it in explicitly. I wonder if we're going to get tagged on YouTube for it. But it's like, we've seen a million birthing babies in what ridiculous, like, I mean, it's a trope. It's almost cliche. But holy crap, it's like crowning. I don't know what crowning is. Get the chart. And we get to see it. You would not see that in a Western film. It's no way. I've never once seen it. I just got, so there you go. Look, there's a chart. And they get it, and they put it up, and it's like, here, this is what's happening. I thought that was awesome.
And for all the makeup they put on her in certain scenes, sort of during the dramatic scenes, I'm gathering it was a monsoon, but all that the sort of the storm there. She was all sort of like, she didn't have, I mean, she had movie makeup on, but she was like, her hair was wet and everything else.
When she was in,
she was allowed to be human.
Super done up. When, like everybody does, every woman in North America, not every woman in North America, but the vast majority,
watch out,
get done up at a wedding.
Oh yeah.
Guys wear suits and ties at a wedding. Like, it's I think again, you can. It's not. No reframe. It would not qualify if it was shot in North America. It would still not qualify under the new rules for an Oscar. But she was a solid character. Part of what makes the movie work.
It's such a great
that character in the second act. Han Solo didn't come into the second act.
And such a great shot just when she's leaving that wedding there. You just see her hennaed hand. And it was actually kind of a nice thing for her to and it was comedic. and it was sort of well done. You know, Raju had that thing covering his face, like the sort of
There's
the
so many shots
veil.
I wanted to keep in my synopsis, including because they got that music and super Bollywood music with that weird, you know, and then also just like, oh, it's diegetic. It's, you know, right at the end, the Dr. Virus, like it was a great little beep of a moment.
Yeah, that's right too.
I thought it was just like it really
has
has its vaudeville down.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like vaudeville, slapstick.
But they gave a lot of their characters a lot to do, so that was a chance for Raju and Pia, who weren't romantically inclined, you know, with each other. It gave them a chance to do something, right?
Richard, Western movie, labor pains, the next scene, a 2-year-old in swaddling.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's but
any
I
episode
just thought
of
it was
ER.
cool. Like you got to, it is a check. Okay, you know, like I mean, it was still, it's still a classic birth and babies thing.
Yeah.
We still haven't answered the question. For those who've watched the movie, it's a lot of engineers that are required to birth the baby.
Oh yes, yeah.
You know,
and that was a good
failed
team.
And all that stuff. It was and a great way. Again, their ability to what could have been, you know, the director's character could have been a villain, an unredeemable villain. That we get these moments, and even answering the whole, you know, the whole astronaut pen question, which was a nice little seed to answer it that way, and then hand it over, and then even then it still has life in the very last scene of the movie. I thought that was great. Like I mean, all those nice little details that make sense in the movie. They're not fat. They're not flabby extras. You know, it
just occurred to me that
it's going to be hard to rank these at the end of the year.
It just occurred to me that if we want anybody, you know, Shashank to recommend more Indian movies for us, it's hard to start with something so good. You know what I mean? Like
so
it's just gonna
solid.
Be like, you know, compared to Three Idiots, this is half the movie. You know, like you know, just in terms of the sprawl and the scale and the color and the everything else and the delivery and so you know, anything else it would. You know, I'm sure there's equally as great movies out there, and we might have to do a little research. But
you know, do you think though, Jim, that there is something to start on such a high, even though, and you know what, it's like, well, we're chasing the dragon now, but there is, like, how do you, like, it might as well start on a high and may never achieve it again. But what a great way to enter into a cinema, a cultural cinema. You know what, it means even if we never get it, we'll forever be, but maybe this next one. And you know what a great, you don't start, you know, it's, hey, I'd like to introduce you to this cinema. We're going to start you with we're going to old guard it and save the good villain for the sequel. No, you start with the best and then work hard to make a better one.
It's an Indian version of Murder, She Wrote, and it gets better from there, I swear.
I can't, and I can't, Shashank, he delivered a solid recommend, and I'm glad he participated. Well, this is like Kyle, like, I mean, it's nice to, you know, especially when we're talking about stuff where you and I as middle-aged white guys, you know, it's like getting areas where you're so, well, I think, you know. And
you know, the nice thing too is that every time that you, especially with these guys, is that, you know, the next thing you see, or if you're just even looking around, you're getting familiar with their names and their faces, and you're like, oh, I saw that guy in this, and it all sort of comes together.
Aamir Khan. Already, or Madhavan, or, you know,
I'm actually thinking of just sort of, you know, in the next week or so, just like, I wonder if there's any YouTube, like the top 5 Indian movies of the 2010s or whatever, you know, and that kind of thing. We need
to get Shashank to make that video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I gotta watch. To do.
I gotta watch his channel there. A little more there. So
So, Jim, before we wrap it up, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we reveal what we're watching next week? Which I believe is a Does It Hold Up?
It is, yep.
Movie.
No, I think we covered it all. There might be something that occurs to me at 1 a.m. or something, but no, I think we got it all. Yeah, I was totally stoked, and I'm eager to sort of watch more stuff and even read a bit about it or what have you. Do some research. The one thing I would say is that that thing that they were sitting on, that big radar tower or astronomical building or whatever.
Water tank.
Oh, was it a water tank? Okay,
Yeah,
I meant to look that up, and I ran out of time there. But the legs dangling over that water tank. Ooh,
the whole
they're wiggling
they pull
around.
off the thing, I would have flipped out.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I would have flipped out like a panicking drowner and dragged both of them with me. The movie would have been over right then, and they died.
Yeah, exactly.
And scene.
But great, great visually, but I don't need to go up there myself.
And Ahmed, the pressure is increasing. You need to, we need, like, we can't just stop in India.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what? We've got a couple of footholds in Asia, but especially. Yeah, what's going on in Kuwait and around cinema-wise? What should we be watching? So, Jelly Duck, that's your here. Let's make our subscribers work for us. Okay. Where was I? Okay, so. For next week, Jim, I'll give the screen to you and let me cue it up. But why don't you, tell us what we're watching next week? What are we going to see if it holds up?
Well, Rob, we've got the unlikely combination of the late Rutger Hauer, a young Matthew Broderick, and the eternal Michelle Pfeiffer in Lady Hawk.
Will this hold up?
Will it hold up?
We'll find out. I have not looked up where we can see it, actually.
Okay.
So that will. Well, you know what? Actually, it's not like I don't have the internet here. Bear with me, my friend. Lady Hawk from 1985.
Richard Donner, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I just was looking it up there, so I was prepared. But yeah, a very young. Look at that. I think that must be post-war games, Matthew Broderick.
Okay, it's on Google Play Movies, at least here in North America. So I suspect in other regions as well. And so you can rent or purchase it there for a low price. Or in other, streaming services you enjoy. I'm not going to go to the Pirate Bay, but that doesn't mean that we can stop all our subscribers. All our dozens of subscribers. Our 3.5 dozen subscribers. Actually, we got more than that now, Jim. We're at 52.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice.
Not bad, eh? Okay, so that's what we're looking at for next week, folks. And, of course, we will be back to our regular time of 9:30. We pulled this one ahead a little because, yes, and I'm so glad we did, Jim, to give Shashank that to get as much time as we did get to spend with them. That was awesome. But, yeah, we're going to go back to 9:30 because and next week, with any luck, everything will be queued in, and I'll have the phantom power to power my mic so that you actually hear me. Well, that's such a bummer. Because I was just so proud of myself, Jim, that it's like, wow, I actually got everything firing here.
You just dub it afterwards. Say, this is a great movie. But
okay, Jelly Duck loves the 80s movies. Awesome. We expect you to back next week, Jelly Duck. And yes, again, thanks Shashank for recommending those films. That it just was a real treat to watch Three Idiots. And Jim, would you say to those watching that it's worth their time?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all 2 hours and 43 minutes of it.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's if you haven't figured it out, yeah, Jim and I are enthusiastic recommenders of this film.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, with that in mind, Jim, you'll stick around, eh?
Yep.
I'm going to finally. I hope the music for everybody wasn't too loud. I'm kind of playing with some stuff, and I was like, "Wow, it's really coming in loud. I got to keep pulling it down."
It was pretty good. I thought,
yeah.
but,
Yeah, I think we're okay. I started a little hot, but was able to pull it back. All right. With that in mind, everyone, love y'all lots, but yeah, I think it's time to cue the outro, if I can find it here.
See y'all.